you're watching Main Road Ramble after we just watched Liverpool 1, Manchester City 4 at Anfield. Raheem Sterling scored. City still missed a penalty. We just had to go live, and we might just sit here and just stare at each other and laugh, but we had to do it. Really glad to be joined by Andrew Detmer and Bill DiFilippo. Did I get it right?
You got it right. I appreciate that, John. Thank you.
Okay, good. Because I did ask you just before we came live, and I was like, did I just screw it up again?
You would be surprised how many people get told how to pronounce my last name, and then within 10 seconds, just like completely wiped away. They throw something random out, and it doesn't work. So, good job.
Thank you. Bill, tell us what you do for your day job.
So I am the associate editor of the website Uprock Sports and its basketball vertical Dime. I sit at home and watch basketball mostly, and in between times watching basketball, I find ways to freak out about the fact that Kevin De Bruyne is out, but not Penn State, my alma mater, but Manchester City got Ruben Diaz, so everything is okay and nothing will ever hurt again.
Nothing will ever hurt again. Andrew, how are you doing today?
I was a bit of a mess that first half, despite my confidence going into the match. And then Phil Foden and Ilkay Gundogan decided just to steamroll all of my nerves and fears and just allow the beautiful, beautiful moments to occur that I think we're all going to enjoy over the next hour or so.
Yeah, City's first win at Anfield in, 18 years?
18 years.
18 years. May 2003, Nicola Anelka, just before the last ever game at Main Road. I remember that game. I was a lot younger then. And I've lived longer since that game than I lived before it. We worked out on the podcast the other day. And that's, wow. But in terms of that, as a result, in general, winning somewhere where you haven't won for 18 years is huge. Winning at Anfield, to go 10 points above Liverpool with a game in hand, to go 5 points above United with a game in hand. Bill, how kind of huge is this in terms of City's title challenge?
Ooh, well, it's funny because I don't know about you guys, but and I know this is famous last words, but I've never quite felt like United were the hurdle that City would have to get over. Like I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, United aren't a serious club, because they're currently in second place. Like if City dropped points today, they would be five? They would have been 2 back with a game in hand for City. So they still would have been the team in striking distance, but I always felt like Liverpool, even with all their injuries, just because they've found a way over the last couple of years to always have some sort of answer, I've always felt they were the team that City was going to have to try to get past. And the fact that this game was at Anfield and there are just so many demons that City have in that place, and then the fact that the first real chance that City had in the match was Ilkay Gundogan, just going like Sergio Ramos on a penalty. Like it really felt to me like at the half, this was going to just be another game where City have a chance to do something at Anfield and they're not able to. And I feel like they exercised a demon in a way. And with everything else going on in this title race, the fact that I felt Liverpool was City's primary challenger, even if there was, a bit of distance between them and United's ahead of them, Leicester's ahead of them, all that. It feels to me like the sort of thing where when we look back on the season, if City ends up winning the title, this was the match that I think everyone goes, that's where any doubt I might have had in retrospect disappears. And I don't know if you guys agree with that, but it's maybe it's just a bit optimistic considering how we're an hour removed from it. But that's just where I'm at with this whole thing. What about you guys?
Andrew, how are you feeling about it?
So I think a lot of things you point to in there are accurate. For me, when that penalty didn't go in, I said in our Slack channel that to me that felt like Spurs away in the UCL 2 seasons ago, where we had the chance to go ahead and knock them out, and then you just let the other side get back into it. So the fact that City, who at times have maybe not been the most mentally strong team when it comes to those moments, were able to overcome that, I think is big. And the way I would compare this result, because I agree with you, when we did our other guys like 2 or 3 months ago, I said it was like 60% chance Liverpool or City wins the title, 40% chance Liverpool, and I gave 0 other teams a chance. And I stand by the fact that no other team had a shot in this. I think Liverpool is City's only competition. To me, this is when we went to United in 2017-18, and we were already ahead, and then we just put our foot on the throat of the team that was our one true challenger and said, you are not in our class. You are not actually going to get back in this. Because I don't know how Liverpool, losing 3 games in a row at home, with all the injuries they have, there's going to be a lot of, I think, questions in that squad's mentality and what they do next. The only caveat is we have an incredibly tough run of games in the next month. But being 10 points up on Liverpool a game in hand, 5 points up on United a game in hand, means that if we drop points against an Arsenal or a Spurs or an Everton, there's still a gap there. There are still points that United and Liverpool have to make up. And so to me, it's just, without a doubt, like, this is the result of the season if City wins the title.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point to end on there, Andrew. And we looked going into the game, our Slack channel after Burnley and Laporte playing in a back 3, our Slack channel went through about 15 different potential lineups between us, or maybe each, I don't know. We seem to be doing a lot of chat about lineups. This was the lineup that ended up being fielded today. Bill, there didn't seem to be a whole lot of contention about it when it was released. It seemed to be, people seemed pretty cool with the lineup. Did you have any qualms about any of the selections?
My one qualm was that I wanted to see Laporte at left back, just because I thought City were going to need a little more solidity defensively. And part of this goes to the way this match was played. Like, do you guys have, I'm looking at it right now, do you guys have offhand what the possession numbers were in this match?
56 Liverpool, 44 us.
And if you told me that was the case, I would have been really surprised. I thought City, with Liverpool's midfield being, somewhat patchwork, if only because their defense is is very patchwork, that City would have tried to be on the front foot the entire match. And I thought that you put Laporte in at left back and you play kind of, it's functionally a 4-3-3, but going forward, it's 3 in the back, and then everybody else is just bombing forward. But I did not expect City to come out with a more pragmatic approach, one that, there are opportunities to get forward, and when those happen, that's when we're going to take them. I also kind of wanted to see Gabriel Jesus start over Riyad Mahrez, but in retrospect, Mahrez did a job, and then Jesus coming on, and I think having that fresh legs and having his pressing in when Liverpool's defense was a little bit tired, when they were more ripe to make a mistake, is something that kind of changed the match. But for the most part, I think after that, whichever ones of you were manning the Twitter account before the match, I said this to you guys, I think after the United match last year, where Pep just completely lost his mind and didn't play with a striker and went with, we're going to have so much movement and so much versatility and so much fluidity, I kind of got a similar vibe in terms of how City was going to end up playing.
Yeah, and I think the game you're referring to is the first leg of the Carabao Cup semi last year. Yeah, I remember that being just an absolute, as meltdowns go for lineups, that was a big one from City fans, and Guardiola proved them completely wrong. And again today, I had my qualms about playing Sterling against Liverpool. I think every time I'm like, okay, I'll give him a chance, and 5 minutes in, I'm like, why did Pep do that against Liverpool? Because he just seems to have this block. But he finally got over his Anfield hump today, Andrew. City in the first half looked like they were just content to absorb the pressure and the pressing of Liverpool, and kind of hit on the break. They got a penalty. When Gundogan missed that, it just felt like here we go again, basically.
I mean, it just, so Jer and I were disagreeing this on the Slack channel, both at the half about the penalty and also after the match. Jer thinks we controlled the match the whole first half, like the match was always in our control. I don't know that I agree with that. I think when you lose the possession battle 56-44, I don't think you can say you control everything. I think you're right that City's game plan was to absorb pressure. It's kind of the inverse of what Liverpool historically did to City, of you just rip them apart on the counter and you press the hell out of them, and then they kind of fall apart. And so I think that it was a good game plan. Obviously, the penalty miss is not what you want ever. But with the performance that Ilkay Gundogan put in the rest of the match, the performance that Sterling put in the rest of the match, that Foden put it, like, I think Bernardo, Phil, Gundogan, and Sterling all had incredible matches when you kind of take the whole match as a whole, of how they pressed and attacked that Liverpool back line. And that's what I really wanted to see. I know some people were talking about, we need Fernandinho in there to control the match or disrupt Liverpool's flow. But what I didn't want to see was City sit back and not be able to get enough bodies forward that can make an impact. And thankfully, that's not what we saw. Like, this was the free-flowing attacking side that City has had over the past 3 years when we're at our best.
So if I may just interject for a second, you mentioned everything leading up to the penalty, John. Something that I felt was that it kind of had the vibe of City matches that we've seen over the years, where the first 20 minutes or so, it felt like City was really in control of the match. Like, I think I agree with the whole, they kind of started to lose the plot a little bit as the half went on. But the first 20 some odd minutes of that, I don't have it right in front of me when the penalty occurred, but it felt like City had control. And then it was like, those matches that we've seen over the years where they drop points to, who's it to Brighton, or I don't even know if they've dropped
Crystal Palace.
Yeah, Crystal Palace, where it felt like City didn't create in the first 20 minutes of the match, and that did two things. One, it put some doubt into their heads that they were going to not be able to create all match, and then two, it gave the other team a bit of a boost, some life over the fact that, listen, we are putting the clamps on them. We are able to keep them from really threatening us. I don't think City had a chance on target in the first half. And I don't know about you guys, but that was, to me, why I had any sort of pessimism, just because it felt like something that we've seen before, even if this team seems to have a bit of what's the word I'm looking for? Resiliency maybe about them that we haven't seen since the 100-point season, but that's, that might not be correct. 98.
No, I think you make a really good point there about how I think it's kind of bottling the game plan a little bit, because I think Pep was incredibly aware that Liverpool were going to kind of come out, and I agree with you that City were keeping the ball very well. They weren't creating a lot in those early stages, and when I say they were content to absorb Liverpool's pressure, I kind of mean their pressure in the way that they press, rather than necessarily them putting a lot of attempts in on goal or creating a lot of chances themselves. So I think that that sense of the game plan, which has been in previous seasons at Anfield, sidetracked by generally a goal of the month or like a goal of the season contender from Liverpool, and it's just nothing that you can plan for. They just save them all for us. And that didn't happen this time. We missed a penalty that could have potentially put us off the rails as well. Going to halftime, 0-0. Andrew, what are you thinking at halftime? Are you thinking I'll take a draw now, or are you thinking City can push on?
As pessimistic as I felt going into halftime, because of how I felt that the front line was performing, I didn't feel that City should settle for the draw or close up shop. For me, what I wanted to see was what we got once Jesus came on, which was that City started pressing more and there was more movement out on the wings. I think Phil Foden moving out to the right when Mahrez left was such a game changer, because Phil has devastating ability to just
Mhm.
dribble and go through a team. We almost saw it in the first half when he almost single-handedly just ran through the entire Liverpool team. And so I think once that happened, that's what I wanted to see, was having someone out on the right that was able to just kind of move through the team. And I think that emboldened Sterling a little bit to do that on the left too, as we saw as the half went on. So for me, like, I don't want to say that I knew City was going to win. I mean, I was saying we should move Sterling centrally because I was so frustrated with like no movement on the left. But I can't be upset with how the rest of that half unfolded, because I think we started to see what the City team as it is at its best.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we made it to halftime 0-0, very confident that we could still get something. We're at about halftime in our live pod here, and I just wanted to flag up here that our resident Italian is very concerned that he's being replaced.
I'm confident. We have no editorial sway here, but I'm confident that there is room for multiple Italians if need be. But again, like, I understand if you guys wouldn't want that to be the case.
Well, I guess that's an executive discussion that we have to have.
Whoever makes John and I a better cannoli, that's who we're going to keep.
Oh man, it's even right now. They've both got the gestures. They both talk with their hands. It's like neck and neck. Ricci's got to pull his finger out. Okay, so we get into the second half. City come out a lot more determined, I would say, to go forward and press Liverpool themselves, and they get their reward. Sterling coming in off the left after good work from Foden, goes past Trent Alexander-Arnold like he doesn't exist, finds Foden again. That near post area, I don't know if Foden's been taking finishing lessons from Aguero at the near post, but he just loves to be there and use the pace of the ball, which there wasn't actually that much on it that time from Sterling, and use that and hit the ball kind of at a savable height for Alisson. He couldn't hold it. Gundogan following up, nearly puts it over. He nearly put both his goals over, but it hits it into the roof of the net really, really well.
As his social media just tweeted out, it's Super Bowl Sunday, so he was told if it goes over the bar, it's worth 3 points. So
nice, love it.
We love things that are topical, don't we, folks?
We do love things that are topical, and we do love that we didn't lose that game, so that he could actually tweet that topical thing out.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about Phil Foden, Bill. Is he City's most important player?
Ooh, wow. So one thing that I have been thinking about with Foden, and it was why I wouldn't have been stunned if Pep didn't start him today, even if he has, built up that bit of a reputation as a big game player, is I listened to Why Always Us, and something that Sam Lee mentions on there, less frequently now that Phil is getting into the side more and more, is that with how Pep likes to control the game, with how terrified Pep is of the other side getting on the ball, one thing that has been working against Foden is that his the fact that he's always looking to go, he's always looking to push the ball forward, he's always looking for the progressive pass, that sort of thing. That's worked against him every now and then. And it's led to him, actually a really good example is on that first goal. He gets the ball, and when he gets it from Gundogan, he's not looking to take that half second. He's looking to get it and immediately play it over to Sterling, I believe it was. And I think Alexander-Arnold got in the way of him completing that pass, but Phil ends up getting up, and this is where his relentlessness, his drive, his progression really helps him, because he was able to get to that ball first. Him doing that pulled Alexander-Arnold up, and Sterling was able to get in behind a little bit, and that set up the goal. And I think that's what you expect out of Phil Foden at his best, more than the finishing, more than his ability to set the table for guys. It's just that he always thinks about how I could push the team forward. And in a Manchester City side that had been kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? it felt like everyone was terrified of making a mistake at the beginning of the season and during some of the lulls that they had last year. That is ultimately where I think Foden's value comes in. Now, whether that means he's the most important player when you have Dias doing what he has been doing in organizing the defense, Stones with his kind of renaissance, Cancelo with how he pushes into the midfield and just is basically Kevin De Bruyne as a right back, De Bruyne with being Kevin De Bruyne, like all the various guys that they have on the side. I wonder if you can say that Phil is the best player, or if it's a matter, or most important player, if it's a matter of Phil just brings something that works with the other 10 guys on the pitch that is, I don't want to say irreplaceable, but when they are playing at their best, it's something that is able to really pop and really give City something that they wouldn't have otherwise.
John, I'm going to use an analogy or a reference you're going to really enjoy here. Phil Foden is Danny Rojas because he has the memory of a goldfish and all he wants to do is go out there and play football. Like, he is the Ted Lasso player because he's just like, I'm going to go out there and do my thing and not care like what else is going on around me. Like the quote he gave, I don't know if he gave it yesterday or when he said it, but he said something like, I could never imagine playing for a team besides Manchester City because I've cheered for them so much. Like, he does not care if something doesn't work or he makes a bad mistake. And that's the biggest thing that I want to see in a forward, because I don't expect, like, I mean, unless you're Erling Haaland, every shot you take on goal doesn't go in. I guess Son for Spurs is kind of similar. But for me, like, the thing that I love about Foden is it does not matter what point it is in the match. It does not matter what just happened. If he gets on the ball, he is looking to do the thing that will help the team the most, whether it's like play the pass that's going to open up the whole defense like he did to Sterling, or if he's just going to just bang it in from a Sergio Aguero-esque angle and just totally destroy the morale of a team. Like that, he does things that very few other players have ever done for City, in my opinion. And he does things that multiple of them did that they don't all do. Like, to me, he does some of the things that KDB does well, but then he also has that big time finishing that we get from Aguero.
And the one thing is, I think he has a confidence about him to do those things that nobody else in the 11 really has, especially when it comes to the ball is at your feet. Are you going to put something on? Like, are you willing to take a shot? Like, how many times have we seen Sterling get the ball in the box and he starts trying to dance? Like, I thought he was fantastic today. I thought that Sterling was able to do stuff that we've just not seen him do at Anfield. Like, Alexander-Arnold didn't have him in his back pocket like he sometimes can do, but we've seen Sterling do that. We've seen Mahrez, he gets the ball in the box and he just kind of stops and he takes a second and he figures, okay, what is the best way that I can get the ball onto my left foot? You see a guy with Bernardo and he always wants to keep the ball moving. You see a guy with Gundogan and he's been much better about it lately, but in years past, he's been very much get the ball at my feet, do something cheeky, lay it off to somebody. Jesus is the same way. Foden is the only guy other than Aguero who, I think when he gets the ball in an area where he can get a shot off, his brain goes right to, I am going to kick this football as hard as I can, try and get it on goal and challenge the keeper. And I think when you don't have Aguero in the 11, having someone with that confidence about you is, it's really, again, I don't want to say irreplaceable, but it's something that City really, really need.
His goal for City is just the guts to take that shot. I get that we're 3-1 up at that point, but like the guts to take that shot as a 20-year-old. I mean, I remember the quote from Thierry Henry about how he scored this incredible goal for Barcelona, and then Pep reamed him out because he didn't do exactly what he wanted to. Like, Pep Guardiola does not care if the ball ends up in the back of the net if you break down his system. And Phil Foden, I think, just has a little bit of enough of like, I know I'm really good to like get away with some of that with Pep.
I don't know. I can see that Phil Foden goal being like the one in his highlight reel is like, the Wayne Rooney goal against Arsenal that NBC show ad nauseum at every possible opportunity. I think that felt like that Foden goal today felt like his Rooney moment, like announcing himself on the biggest stage, in the biggest game of the season so far, away at Anfield, where City have not won for 18 years. Yes, it wasn't the crucial goal, but he had a crucial part in so much of what City did well. And the quality of that finish against the quality of the keeper, regardless of how bad he was today.
I'd love for someone to ask Pep about, because it's been in jest to an extent, but serious to an extent, like any nickname, the whole Stockport Iniesta thing. I'd love for someone to ask Pep about comparisons between Foden and Iniesta. I can't think of anyone doing something like that, but I'd love to ask Pep. I'd love to ask Pep Guardiola his thoughts about levitating by Dua Lipa, but I'd love to ask him about this one specifically.
Yeah, I see a lot of Iniesta in Phil. I guess it's because he's left-footed and he comes in off the right, and that goal today, that was so Messi-esque. Yeah. That goal, it was. I'm not saying that.
No, I'm saying ooh because it'll be really interesting to see how that works out when they're teammates next year.
yeah, and I was just thinking that as I was saying it. But there isn't the Stockport Iniesta has a really nice ring to it.
I think the biggest thing for me about the Foden Pep relationship is you have a guy in Pep Guardiola who came onto the scene, and you can say, yeah, he got really lucky in that Barcelona created these like once in a generation youth academy like prospects, and they had all of them coming through at the same time, and that's not all on Pep, but Pep brought those guys through, managed them with Barcelona B, and knew how to get the best results out of them. I mean, Messi's career was never better than when Pep Guardiola was managing him. And so for all of these last 2 years where Pep has been saying, Phil's not quite ready yet. He can't start every match. We're going to start him here or there. He's used them in different ways. And people have said, I can't believe that Pep Guardiola isn't using Phil. He's not getting enough matches. This is the payoff. Mm-hmm. He is at a level that 20-year-olds typically are not at. He has not suffered serious injuries. He has not been overexposed. He has not been asked to do too much. And now when he started against Liverpool in a game that could be a title decider, no one thought it was weird. He stepped up. He performed. Like, that's what you want. And so yes. Pep deserves credit for – he's always said, like, Foden is one of the best players we have in this club. But Pep also knows that just because someone is a talented player does not mean that you can just throw them out and it's going to be okay.
Yeah, I think Phil is now one of the first names on the team sheet for big games. And I was watching this performance today, kind of moving away from Foden. I was watching this midfield three of Rodri, Gundogan, and Bernardo. And it got me thinking, is our midfield a better functioning unit, our central midfield a better functioning unit when Kevin De Bruyne doesn't play in the midfield? I'm not saying that Kevin De Bruyne shouldn't feature, because I think there's definitely place. I think he's shown, especially for Belgium, that he can play in a three up front as well. But whether it's just those guys stepping up in De Bruyne's absence, but it just seems that the chemistry, Bill, seems to be there in terms of the way that the midfield is dynamism and its interplay. What do you think?
So the entire thing with De Bruyne is when he is on the pitch, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing because he's the best midfielder in the world, has a case for being the best player in the world. It seems like everyone else gets very deferential to him in terms of, all right, we know Kevin is our best chance to create chances that lead to goals. And I that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I view it similar-ish to the situation going on with the central defenders, where I have a hard time saying that City's best central defender, all things considered, is not Emerick Laporte, but Diaz and Stones are just playing so well together and have such a chemistry with one another that you have to figure out ways to get Laporte in, whether it's a match where you're resting one of them, whether it's, we'll put him at left back, we'll get him some run there. I'm not saying it's going to be the same thing with De Bruyne, because I think you have a little more flexibility to say, like, okay, we're going to put him at right winger and basically let him float around and create chances wherever he wants. Foden will be on the left, Sterling or Aguero or Jesus will be in the middle, whatever that is. And it gives Pep a little bit more ability to have a really fluid system where you're coming at the other team from so many different directions over the course of the match that it's almost a blessing in disguise, because they've found a midfield three that just works so well together. And now you can theoretically say, all right, we're going to put Kev somewhere else in the side, or we're going to maybe even put him in the midfield and have someone like Bernardo play a little more forward, or put him in and have Gundogan play the false nine role that, I think everyone would like to see just for entertainment purposes. That it's not necessarily a big problem. It's more of a curiosity as to how Pep figures that out once De Bruyne comes back in, 2-4 weeks, whatever it is.
To me, I think of late stage Messi. I think some of these Barcelona teams, there's been too much deference, as Bill talked about, to Messi, and basically being like, well, we have the greatest player who's ever played the sport. We're just going to give him the ball and watch what happens. And I think sometimes in City matches, particularly late in the matches, it's a combination of deference and also Kev knowing that he is that damn good and just trying to do something himself. And today you see the benefit of a team versus one player and players trying to complement them. And that's not a criticism of Pep or the team, because I think we've seen Kev be a part of a larger team and be, just a role in the squad rather than the best part of the squad. And so I think that particularly in a season like this, where we're going to be playing a lot of matches, if we can get this type of performance and we can slap Liverpool 4-1 without Kevin De Bruyne and Sergio Aguero, and presumably we can make the fraud Klopp cry in his post-match presser, because I assume he did. I haven't seen it yet. That's a really good thing.
Yeah, and one thing that I think certainly helps is that, I could have a completely wrong read on this, and this could be, it's my club and I just want it to be a certain way. But De Bruyne doesn't seem like the type of dude who is going to demand that he gets on the pitch and he gets the ball and he is, the focal point of everything in the way that, a Ronaldo is, or something like that. It legitimately seems like Pep can say to him, all right, Kev, this is what I want you to do. You know your role within this. And then De Bruyne's response will be, I am going to do what I need to do to make the best of this situation. If I don't get the ball as much as I want, that's fine. If I'm more moving off the ball than having it at my feet, that's fine. And I think there is certainly something to say when, we go to what we were just talking about, where it now gives Pep some amount of versatility and flexibility with how he wants to figure out how he's going to put De Bruyne back into the squad when he comes back.
I mean, one of the things that I've noticed in recent games that De Bruyne has played in is that his short passing hasn't been as good as maybe it has been, but his long passing has always been incredible. And so if it would nominally look like a double pivot that De Bruyne would be alongside Rodri in, but you've got Rodri, who is the metronome in there, who gets the ball, passes it off 5 yards, gets it back, passes it right 10 yards. And then you get it to De Bruyne, who gets it and puts Sterling through with a 70-yard raking through ball. I think there's so many options there, and I just really hope that City build on this time when De Bruyne has been away and what they've learned about the team and what the team can accomplish without having to defer tactically. I wouldn't say personally I would agree with that. It's a tactical deferral to De Bruyne in terms of what he can statistically create and the talent that he has.
There's also the fact that Cancelo has Ilkay Gundogan has gone fully supernova, but Cancelo is an absurd attacking force from right.
How is Cancelo real? He's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is insane just how good Cancelo has been. Gundogan is on fire at the moment. He
created more XG by himself than any other Premier League team this entire week did other than City, obviously, because there was other XG. But like he was essentially an entire attacking setup by himself.
Wow. And like, yeah.
Yeah.
And what like character to miss a penalty and come back and still score 2 goals. Missing out on a hat trick is always sad, but what a hat trick that would have been. Rodri, again, so many players had great games today. I want to just hark back to something Bill said when he was talking about Foden as City's best player, and he talks about Laporte as City's best defender. Joe Ricci is getting really worried now because that is like the hill that he dies on in every single conversation we have about defenders. So, yeah, Joe is... I don't know. He's practicing his cannolis as we speak. Finally, so I think that's that 35 minutes of just pure joy. Jesus came on. Change the game with his pressing as well. Just a perfect game plan executed from City. Finally at Anfield, helped by the fact that Liverpool didn't score a 40-yard screamer, which often puts us off the rails, helped by the fact that there weren't a whole lot of contentious refereeing decisions during the game. I haven't heard much talk about Michael Oliver. Some contention over the Liverpool penalty. Andrew, do you want to speak to that briefly? Because you had a point on about it.
All I'll say is, like, if you miss the tackle and then you try to pull a guy, like you put your arm on a guy who's kind of free and clear on goal, like you can't expect not to get it. Now, the one issue I have is that I don't know how you can give him a yellow card. I think if you're giving him a card because he didn't play the ball, it clearly has to be a red. And this is like one of those issues I just have with the way the rules are actually written versus how refs do them. But like, if that's DS's worst mistake he makes with the entire, like, in the season, like I can live with that. Mo Salah is an incredible player, like incredibly hard to bring down. Mind you, they are 19 of 19 on penalties now, so please don't give them penalties because they will score them. But yeah, I mean, I think that this match was pretty free and clear of quote unquote controversy, the way we've seen some of the bigger matches this season just kind of devolve. So credit to Michael Oliver for, I think every call he made was the right one. For the most part, I didn't feel like there were any calls either way that it was, you can say that wasn't a free kick, or, I mean, the foul on Gundogan early on, like, clearly was a card. I think it should have been a red, but like, I can see why it's a yellow. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's really the one thing that Diaz hasn't had to figure out with the Premier League yet, right? Which is just that there are guys like Salah who have, I'm going to try and figure out the best way to say this without saying that like Salah dives, because like one thing about me is that I fully believe that if you are in a position to help your team by diving, you should absolutely do that. Yep. But like Salah knows how to go down when
generate contact,
right, when there is contact in such a way that he's going to get the call. And because he has a reputation for being as good as he is, like, he's going to do that. And there are only, so many guys in the Premier League who are like that, and 2 of them are on Liverpool, and him and Mane. But like, it's like you mentioned, if that's the worst mistake that we get out of Ruben Diaz, then like, I will not lose sleep over not getting Kalidou Koulibaly like I thought I was going to.
Yeah, what a signing Diaz has been for City. We barely mentioned him today. Such was the team, the level of the performance of the entire team.
I don't think there's a single player you can criticize today for City. Like, I think Zinchenko had a couple moments in the first half, but the dude was trying to lock down Trent Alexander-Arnold and Salah at the same time, and that's pretty difficult to do. Like, he probably has the weakest performance, maybe along with Mahrez, but both of them did their jobs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, Bill, thank you so much for joining us. Where can we find you and your website and your company online?
Sure. The site is called Uproxx, UPROXX. I'm going to be very busy this evening with the Super Bowl, and then I don't have to worry about the NFL again for a while, which is quite nice. If you're a basketball fan, by all means, come on by, check us out. We have fun over in our weird corner of the internet, and then I'm on Twitter at Bill DiFilippo. No, try spelling it however you want. Like this usually.
We'll make sure we tag you in the podcast post so that everyone can find you there.
Thank you.
But yeah, thank you for joining us. Andrew, thanks for being here too. And thank you for watching and listening to what has been just an absolute joyous experience from halftime probably onwards and being a City fan today. City go into the FA Cup break, which I think... Is it FA Cup next weekend, or do we have a game in between? I don't even know what's next. I wasn't looking beyond Liverpool.
There's too many matches. There's matches every day.
Yeah, I don't even know when City play next because.
Well, actually, we won't go into a deep dive on this, but like Wednesday is going to Swansea, so it's going to be quite nice that Pep gets to rotate the side a little bit before Mourinho ball next weekend.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I thought games are definitely coming thick and fast, but it's a great time to be a City fan. To go into next weekend, 10 points clear of Liverpool, 5 points clear of second place United, with a game in hand on both of those teams. Leicester only drew today as well, so thank you to Bill, to Andrew, to Allison, to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, to everybody who was
a 4-month break that City had that helped them get enough rest to take down Liverpool.
Yeah, everyone who has had a part in making this result so possible and so joyous. Until next time, we will see you later. Take care.